Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Tea with ALSA. Today we're joined by Veton, the creator of VR Livin. Today we're going to be talking more so about creating a project and seeing it come to fruition.
Yeah.
But I think before we kind of jump into VR Living, what that's all about, it'd be good to kind of hear more about the beginning, what you studied, how you got to that, what you're currently doing, because that's the stuff people are always interested in, into how you got to the idea, because it always adds on to that. So what did you study and how did you get to VR Living?
What's it going with? Thanks for having me, Hez, and the ALSA team. So yeah, I kind of went down the route of engineering. It was always between that kind of architecture, engineering, wasn't really sure. But then I realised maybe my drawing skills went up to sketch for architecture, I went down more the engineering route. Studied mechatronic engineering, kind of a bit of broad mechanical, electrical, robotics, kind of give my options as wide as possible. Went down that route, kind of studied there, went to University of Southampton, did that for 3 years, then did a placement to kind of get an idea of the industry, but there's just so many different routes to go down, so it's quite difficult to kind of know where you fit. Did that for a year, then decided to come back to London and did a kind of post-grad in more of a kind of computer science, where it was like film animation, robotics, kind of game development side, just to kind of test a few things out. That's where I kind of really got into kind of VR, kind of headsets, kind of augmented virtual reality, which was quite exciting to do, which kind of links to VR Livin in a sense. But yeah, so then did that, and kind of that whole kind of COVID period hit, so during then I was kind of applying for a few places. Things were obviously a bit slow, so then it kind of gave me time to kind of think of a few stuff. And yeah, that's, I guess, in that year, that's when kind of VR Livin starts to kind of creep up.
Yeah, and now obviously we had a previous conversation, but something you mentioned is you were talking about how like COVID kind of forced you to create it, because you didn't even think of it in like the way, like, you know, when someone thinks of these type of ideas, they kind of go with like, okay, there's a gap in the market, so let me tackle that on.
Yeah.
Whereas yours was not that. Yours was more like, I need to fix my room, so let me create this to help me fix my room. Like, what was it in your room that you needed to fix?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, to be honest, that's, I mean, from what I remember, I've always had like ideas, you know, with friends, you think, oh, you know, maybe start this. Really like 8 or 10 ideas we kind of thought of for a couple of weeks, but then never kind of like went through with it. I think as timing, you just kind of don't stick to it. But yeah, that year I had a bit of time, and honestly, it wasn't even like you mentioned, looking for a gap in the market. It was just something which I felt, in essence, I just needed to kind of fix my room up, like remodel it up, because I was kind of in the mindset that we probably might be needing to work from home, kind of that kind of new era, and I just wanted to completely remodel it. You know, we normally have like white walls, like white colour doors in our rooms, and I wanted something a bit more, because I wanted also like a chill space, so something I wanted a bit more, kind of create a nice kind of mood for the room, so something kind of like a few dark colours, maybe dark blue or dark kind of grey. Well, my issue was you can go to all the paint shops you want, you get little testers or little ideas, but you can't really grasp when the whole room is that colour. And that's when I was like, I'm not really sure how to kind of go down this, and I was thinking, okay, how does one get to the point where you kind of get that feeling, or you kind of visualize that kind of concept around you? So then that's when I realized kind of work in my postgrad with all the kind of VR headsets, and one of our projects was actually, we were designing an escape room.
Was this at uni or for what?
At uni. At uni, we designed an escape room. So we had like, you go into the world with your headset, and you can like, it was augmented reality in a sense where you can also pick up physical objects.
Nice.
So that we had different designs and everything, so there you could really get a feel for it. You felt like you're somewhere else, you transported somewhere else. So then I kind of started searching for kind of softwares that already exist, which I can kind of do interior design, even just like simple, like I mentioned, the colour of the room. I found one which I could kind of connect to a VR headset, and then just kind of, honestly, at the start it was just me testing. So for I think a couple months, all I was doing was, when I had a bit of free time, I'd kind of design a few things. That's when I kind of managed to find the exact colour, to the point of like some like perfect shade where what I designed is exactly
What was the
how it
colour?
looks like.
What was the colour that you went for in the end?
To be honest, I don't know the actual name of the colour, but I believe it's a nice shade of grey.
Love that.
It's a nice shade of grey, but
very manly colour.
But yeah, no, it's good because it was like during the day it was light enough
Yeah.
for it not to feel kind of too dark, but in the evening it kind of created that nice kind of mood for kind of watching movies, just kind of like relaxing a bit. But yeah, honestly, did that, and then it wasn't even. I didn't even think of it as a business, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I did that. I think I started that maybe around like October time that year, and like maybe 3-4 months down the line, when I kind of designed my room, even to the point where pictures were to the centimetre of accuracy, I thought, you know what, maybe this could be something I kind of push forward.
Yeah.
And that's when I went down the route of maybe I was like, I need this to look a bit more professional, because right now it's just.
An idea.
Yeah, right now it's just it's me, like there's a model, but there isn't anything, but there's no foundation in a sense.
Yeah.
So that's when I kind of started going down and decided to make a website, that whole kind of like online, like LinkedIn, Instagram kind of face. So it's when I kind of show it to someone, there is something there, you know, it's not just me telling you my ideas, but you can actually see it in front of you.
Yeah. And obviously, I mean, now you're still in that process of expanding the idea and continuing building foundation. But how are you finding kind of, obviously, I think one thing you mentioned to us and something we're going to experience later is we're actually going to experience the VR. We're going to see what it's like, so that'll be good. But how has it been like kind of, you know, portraying VR to people who are interested? How do you get people on board? Because I think, you know, right now, with everything going on, sometimes it does feel like, is this hype? So how do you get people to kind of see it for its actual use cases? Because you want to make sure it's actually being used, rather than just like a hype moment.
Honestly, I think no matter as many times I try kind of explain it or even kind of like show my designs, until you experience it yourself, you go inside the model, you don't get a grasp an idea for it. But that's the whole selling point. It's the fact that you're literally transported somewhere and your surroundings become that surrounding, which is a quite alien feeling to kind of to us, in a sense where this is our reality, so it kind of feels weird if you're transported somewhere else. But because I'm not transporting you to the moon, I'm just transporting you to a different room, your brain kind of acknowledges it as, oh, this could be real in essence as well. So I think it's that aspect which makes it quite realistic.
And so when you're working with clients, how does the process normally work? Do you go to them and you're like, okay, you essentially design their room, their house into your software design, whatever you're using? Or is that how it's done, or is it done through a different way? What is that process of getting it into the VR?
I mean, precisely that. So when I kind of did it, I was like, okay, I've tested it on myself, but to really kind of see if they had something behind it, I was like, I need to test it with other people. So I, in essence, had kind of a few friend clients where they had just purchased properties, or they wanted to kind of remodel, they wanted a room, a spare room, they had either kind of office space or etc. But they weren't really sure, and that's what they kind of stuck on. So I just kind of went round. First instance is quite, in essence, it's just measuring everything, because one key aspect to make it really feel real is to make sure everything is measured to how it actually is. So by centimetre the model is accurate, like it's a 1-to-1 scale, so you can get a real feel of the size of the couches, or the size of the kind of the stuff, the interior objects. So I go in, kind of measure everything, do a kind of CAD scale up kind of the interior, and then that's when, in essence, is working with the client to kind of get an idea of what kind of design they want. So I'm not necessarily designing, I'm just there to kind of give them someone to kind of throw their ideas at and illustrate them, and then they can kind of see if their ideas are working or not, because they can really get a good idea of whether they think, okay, now because I see it, maybe it might not work, or now when I see it, maybe it does work. So then, in essence, is doing that, getting through the design stage, and then what's that point? It's just next of sourcing and finding the kind of the stuff they want.
I mean, just to kind of like jump into that. So it's like, you know, you're essentially the open source. The client is the one who decides how they want it. Is that something that you're pushing more towards, where it's like interior designers will be using this for their clientele, where they use what you've created for clients, or how is it? What's the I guess who is the customer? Is it the clients, like the end user, or is it the person designing?
Honestly, I think as you mentioned at the start, it's quite right at the like kind of early stage where it could venture into so many different avenues. But what I feel at the moment, or even the website itself right now, is designed where it's quite open in terms of it's more of a kind of interior design company where it's kind of split into 3 stages. First stage is designing with the client, the VR experience. Second stage is kind of sourcing the products. Third stage is kind of, the construction side of actually implementing the stuff. But what I've kind of noticed recently is a friend purchased a new build, but they hadn't actually seen it. So it's quite a big thing where you put quite a big investment in a property and you actually haven't seen it.
Yeah.
So that's when I realised that might be where my kind of like gap in the market is, because from my experience, I don't really have experience in interior design per se. That's on which I would like to down the line hire who would kind of run that department. So for where I stand, I feel like my biggest growth would be in what I'm kind of most experienced in, which is the kind of designing of the CAD and the VR aspect, which would be working with possibly real estate companies who have new build projects and they want to sell them obviously to clients. And normally they try to sell them off maybe 2-3 years before it's even built.
Yeah.
And that's quite difficult to do if all they have is a few pictures of just kind of rough designs, because it's not actual real life pictures. So in essence, working with them to provide it as in a sense a service where I design, VR Livin designs the kind of interiors of these potential new builds, and then the client can actually experience them, so they have confidence knowing that whether 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom, etc., is good for them because they've actually walked around the place rather than just seeing it in a 2D form. And that's what I noticed is probably where I'd like to kind of push the business for now.
So like helping real estate companies build confidence with potential clients.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good, avenue to go through, especially in London right now. There's so many new builds going up. So yeah, there's definitely that there. And then in terms of like, you mentioned that the whole thing that you've done is you've created the system, the designers are yet to come. What other things do you feel like, okay, for VR Livin, not just a designer, but we're missing also another key piece? Is there any other key pieces that you feel like you're missing? Or do you think like, what, I've got everything that I need right now?
For now, I feel like it's just necessarily kind of getting that foot in the door with the right contacts to kind of break the kind of barrier with the like real estate companies. But in terms of growth, like I feel once I kind of feel confident in that, or I've made a few kind of contracts in that side, then it is the sourcing where then the client, so like the real estate company sells their properties, but then the buyers now are in the position where they have this property, but they also might want help in designing it. So then that could be a side where then I have kind of interior designers who work with the buyers to design their interiors, and then the last stage would be actually sourcing, because that's actually what I noticed is that's probably one of the most difficult things. Sourcing. When I was doing my room, designing it probably took, I don't know, maybe a month. Yeah. But then finding the products, because in essence the products in the design itself are just more kind of visual purposes, kind of rough cut of furniture, sizes of furniture, kind of style, but not the specific item itself. So it's going through just websites after websites, finding products, if they're out of stock or price, depends on people's kind of budgets. And then even when they come, I think I've had cases where probably maybe out of maybe 20 different products that I purchased, maybe 2 came without no faults. Yeah. So it's that aspect which I noticed as if I was a potential client going through that, that's probably the biggest headache. So then that could also be but more of a kind of third stage where sourcing the products for them. Yeah. And that's when I feel like it could then turn into, VR Livin could turn into a whole big kind of... Its own ecosystem. Its own ecosystem where it provides the experience for designing from the VR aspects, then also kind of works with the clients to source the products, and then in essence to kind of finalize it as your own kind of like construction team to actually implement it in for
Yeah.
you, so you don't have to do any of the heavy lifting.
This is more of like a tech question in terms of the sourcing, but would you think of building like an API that gathers information from the internet into like a one main net that you would utilize? Is that something that you'd want to create, or is it more just like using human intuition to source?
So I think you'd need, maybe in the design stages, human intuition is what gives you that kind of that creativity.
Yeah.
You know, and then the aspects of using codes to kind of source the product is where you say, okay, you want a couch or a piece of furniture, a table with this material. That's when then you can kind of get these algorithms to kind of scavenge the web to find them for you. So you're not googling. You're googling far less than you need to. So that could be, but that's in a stage where that's quite far ahead. It would be kind of like just more kind of like optimization of the process itself, which at this point that'd be something down the line. But that'd be a good idea.
We kind of just like briefly touched on something very quickly here, which was computers and also humans. And this, what you're doing right now, is kind of a good example of like using new tech to support kind of current human tasks such as designing and whatnot. From your perspective, just on the topic of technology, as you are working with tech here, where do you see that? Do you see the future going more in the sense of a more utopian, where we can use tech to help us, or more dystopian? You know, like people now talking about, with the metaverse and how we'll probably be stuck in VR as a simulation like the Matrix. Where do you see it? Do you see it more like actually there will be loads of use cases, we just gotta focus on the real ones? Or do you see it like it can get?
Even right now, they're implementing many cases which, like, day to day you wouldn't necessarily be aware of. I think they're using kind of, when Google Glasses first came out, it hasn't really kind of picked up, but it's actually picked up in engineering industries where you might be offshore on kind of your kind of oil rigs, etc., and in tight situations where you might not have kind of access to certain equipment, and that's where they're actually using it quite a lot, where like they're teaching their workers, like it's kind of learning and giving them kind of information they need in front of their face. And so that's been used in very kind of high stress industries, or where you kind of need that technology to help you a lot. But then in terms of your metaverse, I think that's where gaming is probably going. But there's just so much kind of like processing power required for it to kind of be a thing. I've seen kind of clips of people kind of with the headsets on, with kind of equipment. They're limited on a kind of treadmills and that kind of rod of pause. So there's videos of people kind of jumping into TVs because
those are my favourite videos.
They can't really grow up. But that is an example of how real it is to them.
Yeah.
They are crazy, they know they're in their room, because before they put their headset on, they were in their room.
Yeah.
Well, they put their headset on and they believe they're on a skyscraper or something, and on a little plank, and they have to jump, but they're not realizing that they're jumping straight into the wall, which goes to show that until you experience it yourself, it's a complete
different.
It really convinces you that is the reality.
Yeah, I think the only time I've experienced VR was British Airways had this. This was years ago. You know when VR just like first started, where you weren't allowed to move, you were just allowed to stay still. That's when I experienced it. So it's interesting to see now, like even with games, Steam, where it's like you're literally like controlling characters and you're doing stuff, and with what you're doing, it's like you're walking into the room and you're seeing everything, and whether it's interactable, it's dependent on the client if they want it like that. So it is interesting that you get there. Just more going back more into like coming to the idea. I think something what was interesting about your case and why we wanted to have this conversation is because when we normally talk to like a lot of people, they have this business that's already kind of set up, but yours is like an idea with a great foundation. So I just wanted to ask, what keeps you like going? Because you're still going, you're still working, you're still doing stuff. What is like the thing that keeps you going? What is it that makes you motivated or fuels the fire to keep you being like, I need to.
I think as cliche as it does sound, like you've probably seen it so many videos of successful people, and they say, honestly, if you just if you find that one thing that it's not even necessarily finding, it just kind of falls on your lap in the sense of that thing you enjoy. Like I always liked interior design. Like I always like reading certain magazines or watching grand designs. It was something I do out of like pure pleasure. Even on Instagram, there'd be kind of nice images, which I'd kind of save interiors, which in turn came to when I decided to open up kind of the Instagram account for VR Livin. I already had all these interiors. So it wasn't a chore of me searching for them, they were already there because I enjoyed to look at them. So in that essence, even VR Livin is something which it wouldn't be something I'd be like, oh, now I have to kind of design this, like I'd want to. It'd be something I actually enjoy doing.
Yeah.
Which was quite funny in terms of even when I was, so as I mentioned, I kind of started doing this when I was applying for kind of engineering roles. And honestly, that's probably what put me at the front of any time I got called in for interviews or even brought up, because the minute they saw, I'd started my own thing, even though it wasn't even, I didn't begin it for that purpose, that was the kind of what brought my portfolio up to them. And that's one of the main things they wanted to speak about in terms of in interviews, which the job had nothing to do with it, but they just wanted to kind of...
It's conversation.
Yeah, they just wanted to see the passion, where your passion kind of lied, and, you know, when you kind of enjoy doing something, how you really kind of went for it.
Yeah.
So, in essence, for anyone kind of wondering, they might be struggling to find kind of certain jobs or a career aspect they want, sometimes doing something which you enjoy, in essence, kind of comes back around and kind of helps you get to that goal you're kind of searching for, which I've noticed myself. But as to kind of answer your question, it's not even me waking up and thinking, okay, I have to do it. I kind of enjoy doing it.
It's like play for you.
Yeah.
So to someone else, it's work, but to you, it's play. So it feels natural, it feels easy. Yeah. And that's a very good point. And I think it's something like a lot of people forget. And it's something that I hear a lot as well when I'm talking to people. It's like, if it's something that feels like play to them, feels like a game to them, it feels like, you know, like we were talking about, it does not feel like work, it's just going to succeed because, I can stay up till 6 a.m. doing this because it's play to me. So it's very interesting. And it's why, you know, like we're talking about, doing something extra on the side will benefit your career, because you're building something and then you can talk about it in interviews or start something your own. But how are you finding managing the time though, on with your current job and also doing this?
Honestly, when I started working in August, kind of architectural engineering position, and since it's been maybe like 6 months now, and like work towards VR Livin has considerably slowed down because I felt like I wanted to, you know, put in kind of my best effort, especially when you start a new role, a new position. You know, you wanna show up and you wanna, and I was also enjoying that myself as well. It was a weird one I kind of stumbled upon, which seemed to be the kind of job I always wanted. Like I mentioned, I always liked watching grand designs when I was younger, and I always thought I'd love to kind of be working in the teams, kind of designing these houses. But as I mentioned, architecture, people kind of work on one project for years, and by years it could go between 2 years to 10 years. And I think for myself, working on a project for that long, I don't think, you know, it's that same kind of like place didn't kind of like attract me. So then in my industry, I'm just working on so many different aspects of different projects. So I can be like, when I see the big picture, I've kind of did a bit of work on that. Yeah. But in terms of VR Livin, I did a kind of 6-week entrepreneurship program with, it was kind of like this young entrepreneurs in kind of Birmingham, but it was all kind of online. And then they kind of put you together with kind of very successful entrepreneurs as kind of mentors to kind of give you an idea. And what the feedback I was really kind of getting was, it was more of, at my stage, just making the noise. Yeah. It doesn't have to be, you know, like finding the right person or the right contact to in the door. It's more of just, you know, just kind of explain it to people, get people kind of, get people buzzed by it in a sense, so kind of show it to your work or show it to your friends or just to kind of know that it exists in essence. And I think slowly, probably people who have maybe tens of thousands of followers, they initially started 1 or 2, and it's just something where step by step you kind of make your way up. But it's something that I think now I definitely do want to kind of put a bit more concentration into.
Do you feel like it's sort of that thing where it's like once you put it out there, now you can't retract it. You're sort of like, shit.
No,
now I gotta get it.
You have to,
yeah, now I gotta finish this because now people are gonna ask about it.
But yeah, it's weird because as much as you enjoy something, it is hard work.
Yeah.
And when you do have that bit of, okay, maybe you do kind of have to put in a bit more work into it. So I guess I'll see after this, then maybe my progress in the next month will be 10 times more than my progress in the last 6.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's you know, you kind of have to put yourself in positions where you don't necessarily feel as comfortable to kind of really grow. But yeah.
Yeah. And this is always interesting to me, but how are your parents finding it? Because VR, it's funny because I like bringing this up because whenever from our culture, right, parents always want us to succeed. But I just to give an example, you know, the industry I work in, I have to be out with clients. My dad does not get that.
Yeah.
He does not understand that. So when you're talking about VR to your parents or family, do they get it? Or is it like, yeah, like I said?
Nah, I mean at the start, you know, they weren't really sure what was happening. Like they were like, you just playing on some games or something.
Yeah.
But I think once I kind of also showed it to them, even though they're obviously the kind of older generation, like it's, you know, they kind of get lost in it as well. You know, they kind of enjoy it. Think, oh, this, you know, what else can I see?
Yeah.
What other kind of designs are possible? So yeah, now they're at the point where they're kind of aware of it and aware of that I'm kind of pursuing something, but it's more of a they might see or understand the success when they might see more materialistic stuff or like how they can measure maybe their old school ways of measuring success, or if they just see me on TV or something and think, oh, maybe he has made it.
Nah, it is always the case.
But yeah, no, for now it's
It is funny. I always bring it up because it's like it's a different way that they were raised. That, you know, they want us to be successful, but it's like they're so used to that linear way of knowing what it's like. So it's interesting when they see the difference, how they react to that.
I mean, it's like you was back in the day when YouTube first started. If you explain to your parents, yeah, I'm just opening FIFA packs, so I'm playing
online,
and then a couple of years later you turn into a millionaire. It's like, wow.
Yeah, literally.
It's so it's definitely it's a different kind of world nowadays.
Yeah, as soon as they hear money coming in, they're like, okay, yeah, we'll leave you at peace now. We won't harass you anymore. We won't ask you any more questions. You just continue doing you. Yeah, that's good. And I mean, kind of just leading up from that, have you found any times when, you know, the process of creating the idea, explaining it to someone, where people have challenged that in like a negative way? Has that happened? And if it has, like, how have you dealt with that to kind of be like, you know what, let me take this constructive criticism and develop my product, or this is not constructive criticism, this is just a plain out hater. How do you deal with that? Because, you know, when you're at the beginning, like creating something, someone says something negative, you do feel a little bit like, yo, this is my child, like, you can't say that about it.
I think, to be honest, so even for this, I noticed it's always good, like for maybe the first month, and so I kind of, my friends or no one was really aware of this until I kind of had that website. I already had a few models, because, like as you mentioned, that kind of slight negative talk can definitely set you back a bit, because all you need is just something that kind of pushes you off at that start when you're not really confident in your idea to set you back. So I've kind of seen it, or experienced it. So in this case, I just kind of kept it to myself and, you know, kind of pushed it as far as I felt it needed to go for me to kind of feel confident in it. And there was actually something to display. But going back a bit, I've noticed myself maybe now, I kind of fell in that pitfall of when a friend or something has an idea and they just throw it out at the start. I've always been quite quick to kind of challenge it. And in my head, I was challenging it in terms of, because I wanted to give, you know, good constructive feedback. But then you notice sometimes it's not even necessarily beneficial at that point. But also, I've noticed it's, sometimes you might get put off because you think, oh, okay, because there's this company who's huge, they're a monopoly, you can't really compete with them. But then you notice the thing that, or then you look at the stats, this percentage of startups didn't make it at these stages and these stages, and you think, oh, there's no point even starting. Well, the truth is, the ones that normally succeed is the ones where you just kept on going.
Yeah.
If you have an idea, no matter if it doesn't necessarily, it's not the perfect idea, as long as you're willing, you enjoy it, you're willing to put effort into it, and you want to kind of see it to the end, something will come from it, you know, because you could have an amazing idea, but if you don't really pursue it, it will go nowhere. So I think that's why I noticed it's not necessarily finding that perfect idea or something like that, like gap in the market per se. It's just something that you actually want to do, enjoy doing, love doing, and just going with it, and you will notice eventually, step by step, things start kind of aligning.
Yeah, I mean, nothing ever starts with the perfect idea. I
Yeah.
think like Instagram started off as like a whiskey image sharer. That's what they were before they changed it completely to something else. So nothing ever starts perfect. It's like you said, it's finding something you enjoy doing to spend the time, and then creating from that.
Yeah.
Which is always interesting. Did you know, with everything that's just like going on with work and everything, is there like certain philosophies that you follow to stay calm, to like what do you do to kind of keep things balanced with everything? Because you're taking on like you've got your job, you've got family, friends, and now you're taking on another task. This is something we've talked about with a lot of other people as well. It's like, how do you balance that? Because that's also important.
I mean, I think it's something where it becomes where you don't necessarily sit down and think about how to balance it. Because say for example you take that out of the category, you're already balancing work or education or friends, family, activities, but you don't think of it as necessarily direct balance. It's just something you want to do, you're enjoying in that moment. So that then kind of becomes another thing to one of your many other things which you're happy to do. I think it only becomes that point where you have to sit down and think of balancing it is when you're forcing yourself to do it. Because then you're thinking, I can't do this because I have to do this, whereas I'm going to do this and this, and just kind of in a sense manage it slightly. But like when you want to do it, you realize, okay, I'll happily rather do this on this day rather than go out or do something other. But I haven't felt that I needed to necessarily sit down and think, okay, this is when I have to manage it or etc. It's just become part of my daily or like weekly routine in essence.
Yeah. So it's like it's become so embedded that you don't think about it at the point.
Yeah, I think it's when you don't necessarily think about it, that's when it's kind of fluid and it just kind of flows.
Yeah. It's habit now.
Yeah, it just becomes.
That's what you want.
Yeah, when you're out, you see, might see kind of, with my job, it's in the kind of building industry. So I come across that day to day when I notice, okay, maybe this could be a good avenue to go down, and you kind of notice it in your daily life, little things which you could incorporate, which wouldn't be the case if it wasn't something you didn't think in a kind of routine way.
Yeah.
But that's how I feel.
Yeah. And like, I mean, when building those habits, like, was it a conscious thing that you decided to do, or again, was it that thing because your mind was set on creating something, you just naturally created the habits to suit what you were chasing?
I think I think for me it probably was more natural, but it's always more difficult when you've kind of done something and you think back to how you did it. You don't, it's quite difficult to kind of dissect because you're so kind of used to it now. So it's a more of you just kind of go with the flow as much as you can, to be honest. And when you feel like you need a break, you take a break.
Yeah. I
noticed that before in studies, you try to force it, your productivity goes straight down.
Yeah.
You kind of embrace it. That's I think that's the way.
Let it come to you.
Yeah, you kind of. I mean, I remember at uni, there was cases. You kind of go in at 7 in the morning, and you won't leave till like 12 at night.
Yeah.
And sometimes it'd get in the evening, and you're just reading a sentence, and your brain just says, "No, I'm not going to understand this." Yeah. So then it got to a point where I did that for a few days, and I realized I just can't do this no more. And I was like, I want to go out do this, but if I go do that, then I don't have enough time for this. But then in essence, you're not even being productive. So I got into a routine where I'd kind of go out. There was like just outside Brighton Library was kind of the sports hall. There was like a bit of bouldering. I'd go do that in jeans and Vans for like 20 minutes and come back, and I'd be there like, how am I this productive now? It's just when you feel tired, you kind of, you let yourself be tired. I think at this point people are kind of they feel like they don't have enough time to do things.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of time when you kind of just like live in the moment. So I think it's, that's what I've noticed once I've kind of got to kind of grasp when I felt like I needed my rest or I felt like I wanted to do something else, I just kind of embraced it.
Yeah, you let that,
yeah,
whatever you felt.
You don't fight it because it's you just kind of go with it.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's good. But obviously at the same time, some people do need to push themselves.
Yeah.
Different people have different ways that they've set up their mental state. No, but that's so interesting. I mean, in uni, I remember, feels like a long time ago, but yeah, I would do the same way. I'd be like, I'd go in, study like hours upon hours.
Yeah.
But out of those hours, there was like probably 3 that I would get like done. The rest were talking to my mates, chatting absolute waffle about anything. But then, even in work now, I'm sure you see that happening as well. It's like 2-3 productive hours. The rest is just like chit chat.
I mean, one of my managers asked me more recently. There was like a piece of work I was doing, and he said, "So if you had to kind of give me a total, like rough hours that this piece of work took, because to kind of like charge the client," and I was like, honestly, this was probably like a good maybe 2-3 days of work, but those 2-3 days were maybe about like a third just staring at a wall and letting your brain process it. But that time was needed.
Yeah.
So I can't take away all those like moments where you were just staring to the abyss away, because you needed that to kind of find the solution. So I think that's what people need, like, is kind of understanding that it's everything about the process, which is needed and essential. So it's not even an essence.
Every Albanian dad's going to take that excuse now to charge their clients. They're going to be like, I took 4 hours staring at a wall just to figure out what I needed to do, so I'm charging you extra.
But it's, I think, that's in my kind of personal experience, that's what I've noticed.
Yeah. Kind of just, I wanted to ask this, someone who's like, VR real estate, interior, this is just more of a thing I always like understanding, but like, you mentioned you don't really have like, you don't have that much like knowledge in terms of interior design, you just know what you like and you've done all the systems well. Is there any like things that you hate that people have, when it comes, when you walk into a room and you're like, what the hell has this person done to their room? Why have they placed this bed in this angle? Is there nitpicky stuff that you see that you're like, what can a guy do? What can a young guy, a young lass do to make their room look better? Honestly,
I don't think there's everyone has their own kind of fashion sense, their own design sense, Like, I might not understand yours, you might not understand mine, but that doesn't necessarily mean yours is wrong or mine is wrong. It's just how you look at it and how it makes you feel. So I think that's what it is. I'm a very visual person. Even when I kind of go out to a bar or to a restaurant or even at library, I think the aesthetic had to be there for me to really work well or enjoy the environment. And I think that's very like dependable on the individual. At this moment in time, maybe I don't necessarily favor that kind of more old, maybe like, kind of like wallpaper design. I'm more kind of like more modern, more sleek, more clean look, but I'm also very open to getting other people's views, because that's what kind of develops your kind of like your kind of design range as well, because you should always be seeking for kind of opinions or recommendations from other people, because that's what's really going to kind of expand your knowledge and understanding of things as well. So I'm always happy to, even with my kind of Instagram account, I noticed it from friends. They mentioned, you've got a very specific, you're always posting the same kind of images, the same kind of more modern, more kind of darker interiors. And I wasn't really realizing it, because I was posting images that I liked. I liked the visuals of. So then I got into a habit. I was asking people to send me interiors that they thought they preferred and they liked, and it really kind of made it more into a whole where the audience, like, it kind of attracted a more kind of broader audience, which I also enjoyed. And there's interiors which I might not necessarily seen to begin with, but now I enjoy, like I really do like, because someone else kind of recommended it. So I think in my position, I'm more than happy to kind of really kind of experience all different type of interiors and really kind of get people's opinions on things.
Yeah. Do you feel like when you design a room, or when people design a room, it can also have an effect, like a weird placebo effect to the thinking? Like I saw someone say that just by having a bookshelf in your room, it will force you to read more. Does stuff like that? I mean, that's a basic example, but does stuff like that, is that something that interior designers do? Is that something that you've noticed that clients have wanted to kind of change the way they feel, look? Because again, it is like preference. It's how you feel, how you want to be presented.
Yeah, I think maybe because I haven't necessarily studied interior design, so there probably are so many kind of key aspects like 101 design in that essence as well, and it makes sense. But I've noticed it's more of people might want a bookshelf in their study, not necessarily because they might read a lot, but they want to read a lot.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, they want to portray themselves as a person who does read a lot, but in turn it makes them read. So they kind of become the person that they see themselves, they want to be. So I think that's why everyone, the way people design kind of then to like their spaces around them, there is always a purpose behind it, and you might not initially understand it, but once you kind of get to know the person, you see the reasoning why that's there, or why they kind of do things in a certain way, which I've always been like intrigued to kind of understand, because I feel like the more I understood that, the more I could kind of understand and really help clients achieve what they want to, because I can really see what they're kind of what they're trying to go for, and kind of really understand it from their point of view.
Shows their character and persona into the way they design. It is an interesting way that people, it's like a placebo we create for ourselves. Like we put stuff there. If we buy healthy food, we'll ultimately eat healthy food. It's the weird stuff we do. Yeah.
But no. So I don't think there's a right and wrong way of designing something. It's just how you want to express yourself.
Yeah. Fair. And so now with like VR Livin, what are some like next? What are the next steps? We've entered the new year. What is the big objective for VR Livin this year? Is it a big goal, small goal?
I think for myself, I want to take it kind of at a relaxed pace. I don't want to really, I don't want to pressurize myself too much, because I kind of notice from experiences, or just like seeing people around me, you can get to a point where you overload yourself too much, and then you in essence just stop.
You burn out.
So I've been taking it very kind of relaxed, as I mentioned, just kind of going with it, and kind of more of a steady pace, to be honest, because it's, as they say, it's like kind of that journey that you kind of really enjoy. And if you rush it too much, once you get to the end point, you think back and you think, maybe I should have kind of took my time and really kind of enjoyed it. So I think the goal for VR Livin at this point, as I probably mentioned a bit slightly at the start, it's really getting that kind of grasping the kind of entry into the kind of real estate, working with kind of designing the layouts for the not necessarily designing, but the existing new build layouts, just bringing them to life. So just finding the right avenues to kind of get my foot in the door there, and then just kind of working my way from there, to be honest. That's probably what the look for this year is. Yeah,
no, that's a good process to take.
Yeah.
One thing I just wanted to bring up, more of a question for you, but why do you think people like to rush their goals and objectives? Because from my end, I agree. I think take it at your own pace. But what do you think? Why are people so rushed to be successful?
I think I can only speak for my experiences, and I've fallen in that pitfall myself, where with everything around you, you feel like you have like certain kind of like checkpoints you need to reach, because you see people around you who've already reached them or on the verge of reaching them, and you feel pressurized to do it, and then in essence it does have an aspect on your kind of mental health as well. So it's more of a, I've noticed, as for myself, I enjoy it more if I kind of shut that out and just kind of do it at my own pace, and you get there. When you get there, it's more of like the enjoyment of the process, because if you're constantly feeling like once you reach that goal, that's where you're going to get your happiness. Once you get there, your happiness is in that something else that you haven't reached yet, rather than in the now. So for myself, I've noticed I want to take it at a relaxed pace because I want to enjoy each moment rather
Yeah.
than chasing something which might not even be what I want.
Yeah.
You just think that's what you want.
So that's a very good point. It's it brings me up to something very interesting because there was this like talk, or I think it was a study where people who climbed to Mount Everest,
Yeah.
and they got some of them there very quickly with help and stuff.
Yeah.
There's people that got there very quickly with assistance and whatnot.
Yeah.
They didn't take the long route, the normal route that everyone took.
Yeah.
When they got to the top, they didn't feel the excitement. They got to the top and they were like, "What's the hype about Mount Everest?" But those that took the long journey, they were like, "It's beautiful. It's it's amazing." And you have to take that journey at your own pace because you'll never, like you said, you have to appreciate each step, each fight, each crawl, whatever. So when you do get there, or when you do get to that goal or objective, it's more rewarding.
Yeah.
It's like you're fasting yourself before you reward yourself, and I think some people, they just want that dopamine very, very quickly. Give me the success now. Let me do the most minimum amount of work, or let me get there very, very quickly.
That is a good point because I feel if the helicopters could go that high up, which they can't, if you just place someone at the top, it's not this. You're not going to get that same. Because in essence, when you're in an airplane, you're considerably higher than Mount Everest.
Yeah.
But you probably don't feel that view is hitting you as much as someone who just took a couple months to get to the top of Mount Everest. But
there needs to be that sacrifice.
I think it's that journey in that sense. It's that something that you feel that you've kind of conquered.
Yeah. And does that journey play like a huge role into the way you're approaching VR Livin? Because from the conversation we're having right now, it sounds like you're very like you want to take that journey. You want to sort of like, if I fail, let me fail. If it goes this way, let it go this way. Like, you want to take that journey. Do you feel like that is the case? Like,
exactly.
That journey is a big part for VR Livin, and that this company, this project has to go through that journey before it can be anything.
Precisely. As like I mentioned, there's like apart from the kind of the new builds of the real estate, there's the other knock-on kind of potential avenues I'd like to take in. But if while I'm going for that my first one, I venture in a different path, I'm more than happy for it to go down that path, and I'm not going to be in that position where I'm like, oh no, I wanted to go here. Whereas I think that's what I'm kind of looking forward to in terms of just taking it day by day and seeing where it goes, because I'm more than happy for it to kind of go down a different avenue if the time comes, and if I feel like at that moment in time that's probably the best thing for me or the company or etc.
Yeah. And kind of just to like, I guess, end things off.
Yeah.
What is like I always like to ask this, what's advice? And I know sometimes you feel like, like you don't want to give advice because it's like, who am I to give advice? But what is advice from the journey you've taken that you would give, or what sort of actions or steps would you tell people?
Maybe because it's always I've had many a time I sat down and thought, okay, what do I enjoy?
Yeah.
What do I? That could be for career-wise or for even like kind of project business-wise. Like, what do I enjoy? What do I want to invest my time in? And you sit there and you don't really find an answer to it. And then I look back and think, okay, what were the cases where I was doing something where time flew and I didn't even know it went by? To the point where you didn't even realize you were hungry. Doing that process was, you were that invested in it that time kind of stood still, but at the same time just moved so fast.
Yeah.
And when I look back for my case, it was kind of doing those kind of CAD designs, just flicking through magazines with kind of nice interiors, which I would happily sit there and do that all day. And it wasn't even where I noticed that, and then I went down the VR Livin route. It was, as I mentioned, it was something where I wanted to redesign my room, and then they just kind of joined.
It came back up.
It clicked. I look back to it and think, oh, wait a second, I always enjoyed doing this.
Yeah.
So in hindsight, you notice it, but you can't really connect the dots. It's a difficult one.
You can't tell the future. You just
So even this question, in the essence, there isn't necessarily an answer to it.
Yeah. It's a weird paradox, right?
I think I've noticed as long as you keep going, you know, something does kind of like, you know, stuff will kind of align in it when you look back to it in hindsight. But yeah, I think I've noticed whenever if I've ever stopped at something, that's when it's, you know, that's when you've created that kind of barrier for yourself.
Mm.
The minute you don't continue, then that's when yeah.
Yeah, it's like the same where it's like if you continue going, the luckier you get.
Yeah, it's not even that you get luckier. You just put yourself in positions to have those opportunities.
Which obviously to other people is luck, but
yeah. So it's that kind of just, you know, you know, it's like I said, it's not even doing it fast. You know, it's you could be working on it an hour, or a day, or a week, a month. As long as you keep going at it, something will come from it.
Yeah. Man, some solid piece of advice. That's something I would tell other people as well. So man, it's very, very good. Anyway, now this is the bit I'm excited for. We're actually going to try out the VR. I've noticed, like I said, the first time I tried it out was ages ago when I think it first came out and you had to stand still. So I'm excited for this one.
A few moments later.
Yeah.
How do I?
Are you?
Just keep walking straight, Haz.
Are you sure? There's
Yes.
nothing in front of you.
There's nothing in front of you at all. There's nothing in front of you. Just keep going. Just keep going. Just keep going.
If I fall over, it's up.
Yeah.
Are you inside the
It's actually correct. Oh, dude.
Yeah.
What can you see right now?
I can see a TV and a couch.
Damn, shame. Am I invisible to you?
Yeah.
Am I a joke to you?
What I noticed is, if I had designed this room, you'd put it on and be like, whoa, like this is exactly this.
Yeah.
So this is like the kind of 3D version. I don't know if you wanna. It's like this would be, for example, like the interior. This is like my friend's place.
Yeah.
Like item for item, that's exactly how it looks like. This is probably the room which I was designing. So this
That's
is
a nice little office there, you know?
Yeah, so that's the kind of, I've done like 12, 13 different versions. So then if I would just turn it from basically when you went outside, if we had a fan and did this to you, you'd feel like you were outside.
Yeah, no.
You started in a pretty horrible position, bro.
Yeah.
all the feedback of it is.
I have a good orientation, don't worry.
Alright.
But yeah, so if you want to move, just gotta push the button underneath you.
Oh, I can't see my hand though. If I could see the extension.
Yeah, no, once it. No, as in, wait, so just push the.
Oh,
Yeah, so
okay.
push that and then you walk. Yeah. So then you can like walk around. One thing I noticed is it's in the fine details. So that place, if it didn't have the kind of the mugs or the books and the bookshelf or the kind of small the small aspects, it doesn't feel as real. So it is the fine details, making sure you know little things like the remote, or there's candles, or there's certain accessories which are just for more visual purposes. They do make it does bring the space alive.
Careful.
Keep
walking forward.
Is this is say for example all you had was those images, right, and that didn't exist. Do that and then you get a feel for.
What's your rating, Basar?
And then make it
I rate it hard.
wanna
It's
go
hard.
back
Look at the
with
balcony,
the
man. It's just
changes
lit.
and stuff like that.
And that's it. Guys, thanks for joining us on another episode of Tea with ALSA. We really do appreciate it. But we'd appreciate it even more if you could just subscribe, like this, leave a comment, and all that good stuff. That's it. We look forward to seeing you guys again next following Friday with more of our guests. Thank you.